So Resident Evil Village released just a few weeks ago, to massive success. After the poor reception of RE6, they managed to turn things around in a big way, with both RE7 and the remake of RE2. Although RE3's remake received slightly more mixed feedback, Village was yet another smash hit on launch week. Things have been looking as good as ever for the Resident Evil series, especially in contrast to the sorry state of Silent Hill content over the years. While Capcom has kept their series flourishing, Konami seems content to let their once successful IP wither away. But that's aside from the point. There are many things that have led to Resident Evil's great success. There's gameplay, characters, art, animations, and a whole bunch of other things you can plainly see. But there's so much more going on beyond the visible facade in these games. And I'm not just talking about all the code that makes everything work as intended. There are systems at place in these games that are tailor-made to cheat the player without them noticing it. Obviously, these are designed by the devs with the best intentions in mind, but they're still tricking you nonetheless. Now, you may have heard of a term called adaptive difficulty, but trust me on this, adaptive difficulty is not entirely what people say it is, nor is it the entirety of what I'm going to be talking about. Casual players are generally completely naive to these systems, often for the better. You could even argue that some people would think less of their experience with the game for knowing how these things work. But I find it quite interesting to examine all the ways the game plays tricks on you. Like I said, many of these things are nearly imperceptible, even if you have full knowledge of them. So let me try to explain what's actually going on behind the scenes. Like it or not, Resident Evil games cheat the player, for better and worse. Let's just start off with the elephant in the room. Adaptive difficulty, otherwise known as dynamic difficulty, game rank, or many other terms, is a core feature in countless Resident Evil games. It silently changes the game depending on how well the player is doing. Some say the concept originated in RE4, although there may have been some predecessor code in even earlier entries. When discussing adaptive difficulty, most people talk about how you'll get less ammo and other items if you already have a lot. While that is true, it doesn't even scrape the surface of how complex the system really is. It varies a lot from game to game, so let's take RE7 for example. Easy, normal, and Madhouse modes offer different difficulties, but each can vary hugely depending on how you play. The game uses a tiered ranking system, completely invisible to the player, that tracks the current difficulty within your selected mode. The ranks are represented from 0 to 9, from easiest to hardest. Each rank is separated by 1000 rank points, which are gained and lost by countless actions in the game. As you go up, the game will become increasingly harder in many ways. Easy mode starts the player at 1500 points and limits them between 0 and 2999 points. This means you'll start easy mode at difficulty tier 1. You can drop down to tier 0 at 999 points or less, or go up to tier 2 at 2000 points or more. Normal mode covers 3000 to 6999 points, while Madhouse covers 8000 to 9999 points. Interestingly, there is no way to have between 7000 and 7999 points, so difficulty tier 7 is unreachable in the main game. The reason for this isn't well known, but one can assume it was probably a part of Madhouse mode, only to be later removed to keep the difficulty high. Rank points can be gained from a variety of things, like dealing damage or dodging enemy attacks. It can also be increased by much more specific things, like hitting Mia's head or destroying an insect nest. On the other hand, rank points are lost when taking damage or dying, as expected, plus some random negative events, like Marguerite creating a new nest. Thanks to the official Japanese strategy guide, we know that the game rank modifies the following things: damage dealt, damage taken, molded movement speed, and molded attack speed. In line with other entries in the series, we also know that random ammo and items are reduced when the player is doing well, but we don't know if this is determined by game rank or simply a calculation of the player's current supplies. There are very likely other things that game rank affects that weren't divulged to the public. But even from what little we know, game rank plays a huge role in how players will experience the game. The better you do, the harder the game becomes. The worse you do, the easier it becomes. Up to certain limits, of course. The main reason for this system to exist can be described in one word: flow. Flow is a common term in psychology with applications to numerous fields, from games to artwork, music, and more. As Wikipedia describes it, flow is the mental state in which a person performing some activity is fully immersed in a feeling of energized focus, full involvement, and enjoyment in the process of the activity. When it comes to game design, flow is often touted as a sort of holy grail in the industry. The goal for many games is to eventually bring players into a flow state, offering deep immersion, unhindered focus, and great enjoyment. As illustrated in this simple graph, when player skill increases, the challenge should increase proportionally. Too challenging and a player will become anxious, too easy and a player will become bored. Now, horror games can shift this graph slightly, as causing anxiety is not necessarily a downside in the genre, but too much challenge, especially repeated failure, and a horror game will fall apart. Things just aren't scary when you keep doing them over and over, as frustration will quickly overtake fear. Likewise, being bored will really kill any sense of horror in a game. So although horror games don't exactly have to play by the rules of flow, they suffer greatly if the player falls out of it. On the other hand, deep immersion in a horror game is one of the finest experiences we can hope to elicit. It's no wonder people love watching content creators get spooked by just about every horror game under the sun. There's just something compelling about witnessing people's primal reactions to fear. So you have dynamic difficulty, flow, game rank, invisible health and damage numbers. What's it all matter? Well, it clearly works, or else they wouldn't keep including it in every new Resident Evil. The difficulty scaling system tries to match a player's average skill level with a challenge that suits them. When it all works, it provides that edge-of-your-seat horror experience. Of course, it's not magic, so it doesn't capture everyone, but it does work for a wider range of players than a static difficulty. But on the other hand, knowing the intricacies of this system leaves it ripe for exploitation. Having trouble on a boss? Just die and reload a few times real quick and then it should be a piece of cake. Always running low on ammo? Don't pick up any of the loot in an area until it's fully explored. All the ammo that spawned during that time will be huge stacks. There are many ways to game the system, but does that make it more or less fun in the end? Are we cursed with the knowledge that we may simply be punished or coddled based on how we play the game? Are casual players actually better off just experiencing the game with no knowledge of these systems? I'd be interested to hear your opinions in the comments. As they say, perhaps ignorance is bliss after all. I hope I didn't ruin Resident Evil games for any of you out there. It's still one of my favorite series of all time, and despite some gripes I may have with dynamic difficulty, I understand why they chose to include it. And if you enjoyed the video, subscribing always helps out a lot. The channel has been growing pretty fast since the new year, and it wouldn't have been possible without the support from people just like you. Anyways, that about wraps this one up. I hope to see you all in the next video, but until then, have a good one, folks.